So as you can see, I have started recording for this event and want to thank everyone for joining us today for our AARP New Hampshire event with the Creative Feast. My name is Frances Donahue and I'm your host today. I'm also a volunteer with AARP New Hampshire. Assisting me today is Mary Roberg, my fellow volunteer. The recording for today's virtual event will be available in a few days on our AARP New Hampshire YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/@AARPNH1. We welcome your questions and ask that you put them in the chat, and Mary Roberg and I will address them periodically throughout this demonstration. We will also be putting in the links for the recording, the web address for Liz's recipes, and information on the cooking class throughout this demonstration. Today, Liz will demonstrate 3 seasonal treats: tomato melon, hot chili salad with burrata, and crispy corn fritters. These recipes can be found on her web address, Cookalong Classes, Liz Barber's Creative Feast, thecreativefeast.com. This event is part of a series with the Creative Feast, which focuses on food and its impact on healthy living. AARP has been promoting the health and well-being of older Americans for over 60 years. In New Hampshire, AARP works to bring you informative, innovative, and fun virtual events like today's online Cookalong demonstration as a means of connection and inclusion. AARP has numerous free healthy living resources on its website, which include staying fit, wellness and longevity, and information on healthy eating as well as staying sharp. There is something for everyone. Chef Liz built her cooking career in various Boston catering and restaurant venues. After starting a family, she re-entered the food world as a cooking instructor and developed Liz Barber's Creative Feast. Chef Liz has appeared on New Hampshire's WMUR Cook's Corner. Her cooking demonstrations and recipes and herb gardens have been featured in various publications, including Where Women Cook, New Hampshire Magazine, the Nashua Telegraph, and the Hippo Press. All her programs focus on the premise that we are healthier when we cook at home. We hope you enjoyed today's program. Liz, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Frances. And again, it's so wonderful to have you all here today. We've taken a couple of months off during the summer, so it's really nice to be back together again. And of course, we have cooking classes all the way through December, once a month on the 3rd Friday of the month. So before we get started, let's go to, I want to share with you my website so that you can check that out. And there we go. Hold on one second here. There we are. So here's my website, and here you're going to find all kinds of great food information. If you go to where it says food and fun, to the recipe blog, you'll see that I've created pages just for AARP classes, and they go all the way back to 2023. So you can find all of our recipes and the dates that I will be doing classes for. So today is Friday, September 19th. So here are your recipes right here. You can download those. I have the recipes up for October 17th class, which is a French bistro at home. And then coming in November, I'll be adding the Turkey 101 recipes. We're going to learn how to make a turkey pan gravy, and then we're going to do some holiday desserts in December. So lots of fun classes coming up. But of course, if you go to the recipe blog, you will see all kinds of recipes here. I do have categories here. And so there's lots for you to look at. Also, if you're somebody who's interested in intermittent fasting, it's something that I have been doing now for almost 8 years now. And I love this lifestyle. So there's information there, low carb. You can check out my chickens, my edible gardens, and my kitchen remodel that I did a few years ago. So all of that fun stuff is there for you. But right now it's time to get ourselves cooking. So let's just talk a little bit about our recipes. So This is the perfect time of year to be, we've been eating tomatoes for a little while here in New Hampshire, but now our farm stands are just full of heirloom varieties. So I'm going to make that salad first. It has burrata, which I'm sure many of you, when you go into a restaurant, you've seen it. It's a combination. It's a mozzarella that is not completely, it's more free form in the middle. So it's just another way of getting a beautiful cheese on your plate. But I also have regular little tiny mozzarella balls that I bought at the grocery store, so we can, you can try those instead if you don't want to get the burrata. The burrata tends to be a little on the pricey side, but it is a wonderful treat. So we'll be making that, and then we're going to be making corn fritters. And I love these. I made them the other night, and thank goodness I took half of them and stuck them in the freezer, because my husband and I would have finished the whole batch in one night. So you can freeze them, but they do take advantage of all the fresh corn that's available now. And I'm going to show you how to take that off the cob, and then we'll get those frying up. So I'm just going to move those ingredients off to the side for now, so that we can be focusing fully on our salad. And I'm going to get myself a nice mixing bowl. And, so this salad is a two-phase salad. Essentially, you're going to make the salad, and then you're going to plate it. And the plating is really important here, because the burrata needs to be presented, right? It's not something you want to cut up and put into a salad. And for those of you who've never seen burrata, you'll know exactly why I say that when we go to put it together. Now, the combination of ingredients in this dish is fantastic. Here are all of my fresh herbs. So I'm going to be using some basil here with this. And I also thought, just for presentation, I would use some greens. So I'm just going to pull these out now and set these aside, and I'll talk to you a little bit about those. So we'll set those off to the side. Boy, I can smell that basil. Once you take your herbs and you smack them a little bit, the scent really comes out beautifully. And let me just move that, because that's right in the way. All right, so I'm going to set those aside. So in the preparation, of course, we have our tomatoes and we have our melon. So first, I want to focus on the melon and get that cut up. There are many different kinds of melon that you can get. This is kind of a cross between a cantaloupe and a honeydew. I got it from my local farm stand. This is a wonderful time to experiment with the smaller melons. Go to your local farm stand, give them your dollars, because it really helps. It's very expensive to be a small farmer, and their margins are very small. So I always try to, give them my business in season. So when you're buying a melon, a couple of things you want to be aware of. And one is, it should smell like a melon, right? So this is almost tangerine in scent. So it's got a tangerine scent to it. It is got a little bit of give to it. If your melon isn't ripe, then what I would do is I would just set it on the counter for about 3 to 5 days and let it ripen, and then cut into it. Rather than refrigerating it, will stop the ripening. So we want to give it some time on the counter. Now, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to cut a melon. This is one of my favorite lessons. It's like I love to teach people how to cut an onion. Once you get it, you'll never forget it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off the ends of the melon, and this will allow us to stand our melon straight up. Now, these scraps are going to go right to my chickens. They love them. So now we have this standing on its flat end, and then we're going to peel around it to remove that, that rind, and get as close to the melon as you can, or close to the rind, so that you're not taking a lot of that melon with you. And you just, take your time, and you're going to go around the curve of the melon. Oh, this is so beautifully ripe. This is perfect. And then that way you're going to get that rounded pieces, and you're going to get all of that skin, that rind right off. There we go. Now, if there are any questions during the program, go right ahead and put them in the chat. And Francis is going to interrupt me so that we can get those questions answered in real time. Now I'm going to cut this in half. And now you see, there we go. We've got our seeds there. So I'm going to get my spoon and I'm going to just take those right out. This is, again, this is my chicken's favorite part of the melon are the seeds. And just take that, you can see all of that wonderful juice. Now, what I recommend to you is, say you've got this beautifully ripe melon and you want to have some today and you want to have some a couple days from now, right? You're going to have guests and you're like, oh, I think I'll save some of that melon to, make that salad. What I would suggest is, in storing your melon, do not cut it up because it will start to deteriorate and you'll lose all that juice. So as you're storing it, store it, in one piece like this and wrap it in plastic and, keep it nice and fresh in your refrigerator, and it will last longer and it won't get mealy or anything like that. So half of this melon I am going to save for later, and I'm just going to wrap it whole like that. Now, we've got our melon all set. So with every time we're cutting something, we want to turn it over. If you see any extra little bits of rind, take those off. And now I'm just going to slice it. Now, in your presentation, you can slice it in many different ways. We can slice it. I'm just going to slice it around like this, and I'm going to make it not too thick. So they're probably about 1/2 inch thick slices. Follow the shape of your melon going around. Okay, and I'm going to cut it 2 ways so you can see. So the first way, the way I'm going to do this for this salad is I'm going to leave it in these slices like that, but I'm just going to cut them smaller. So I'm going to give them probably like that and leave that. Now, if you wanted to, you could cut one, if they're a little bit thick, you can cut them like this, but I like this long, thin sliver look for this salad. Okay, but that's just me. You can choose another way. So let's get these in there. And I'm gonna do 2 more just so I love the flavor of the sweet and the savory. So the sweet is the melon with the savory of the tomato. And tomato is technically a fruit because it's got seeds. So there's a sweetness to those tomatoes. But we're going to add those. Now, if you needed to have cubes, then you would just cut them all the same size like this. Maybe you're doing a fruit salad for guests and you want to have them cubed. And it's so easy. Now, let me just get another, I'm going to get a little bowl and pop those in and save these for a little snack for later. Or if I want to add more to our salad, I'm going to do that. Okay, so there we go. Boy, you can see how juicy that melon was. Left a nice wet stain on my cutting board. So there we go. Clean that all up. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut our tomatoes. So I've got this wonderful little zebra tomato, and either a chef's knife or you can cut it with a paring knife depending on the size of your tomato. These tend to be a little on the firm side. And again, I'm going to keep that same shape, nice long and thin rather than cubes. I think with cubes, we're all prepared to have them, but I think when you add a different look, a different cut to a vegetable into the mix, it makes that recipe that much more interesting. So that's why I like to show people different ways to cut different fruits and vegetables. We're also going to be adding color, especially at this time of year. We want to take advantage of that. So I have this beautiful orange tomato. Now, yep, you can take that stem end right out this way, or you can do, sometimes I'll just cut this right off, and then I've got a nice fresh straight edge. And then we're going to cut it in half. And again, we're going to cut this into longer pieces. They're a little bit on the thick side. And we're going to be very careful when we do this so that when we stir this, we don't break up our tomatoes and our melon. It's going to be a very gentle toss. So now we have orange, 2 shades of orange. We have green. These yellow tomatoes, these little cherry-like tomatoes or pear tomatoes, these came from my garden. Always cut your cherry tomatoes or your pear tomatoes in half. It's so much easier to eat, but also the more surface area you have on your vegetables, the more flavor, because that's where that dressing is going to catch on to that. So you want to do that. Now this is a beautiful, you know, red, deep red with a little bit of orange, almost rusty color. That's going to add to this. So again, this is where I'm going for variety, and I'm going to try different colors. And at my farm stand, they do describe the flavors, so that's always nice, so that you can then, you know, kind of experiment a little bit. And then finally, I think I'll just do a couple of these beautiful plum looking tomatoes just to get another shape in there. This is going to be a little bit round, so you can see how those will be added, you know, and it's all about variety. Put one more in there. So I'm going to stop there because it's just my husband and I, so I'm not going to make a huge salad. I want to make enough that I'm going to eat, but I don't want to have a lot of leftovers, or any leftovers, in fact, because then the dressing, it just gets a little bit runny and wet if you do a leftover. So if you're entertaining, and this is going to be one of the dishes that you're going to share, what I recommend is that if you're planning ahead, you cut your tomatoes like this earlier in the day and just leave this bowl alone. You don't want to pre-dress this, because again, if we're adding salt, that's going to bring out the water from the vegetables and the fruit, and it's going to make it a very wet dish. So now we're going to get our do our dressing, and I'm just going to pull up my recipe just so I have my list of ingredients here. And let's see, pull that up. So today we're using a white wine vinegar. So when you buy vinegars, you want them to be, it's worth spending the money on a vinegar because of the acid content and the flavor. So a red wine vinegar standard from your grocery store might be a little bit too strong for this. A white wine vinegar also, you know, they actually use the grapes that you may be familiar with in white wine. So this one is a Prosecco white wine vinegar. And so they're using a single grape. It does tell you where this is from. So I know that they do a really good product here. This one is a rosé of Modena, and this has a sweet rose wine vinegar, so it's got a little bit on the sweet side. So you could use either. It depends on what kind of flavor you're going for, but I do have a nice little collection of vinegars. I've got your standard balsamic, I've got apple cider vinegar, and then I try to get into these other vinegars that will give me a little bit more subtle flavor. And this particular recipe is, I'm just going to be making it for this salad, so it's just going to be enough for this. So we've got about 3 tablespoons of the white wine, right? I'm using this Prosecco, but there are plenty of other options out there. So we'll use 3 tablespoons of that. And then we've got 2 tablespoons of an extra virgin olive oil. I do like to recommend to you that you're using an olive oil that is sourced from one country. You really need to look at the ingredients in your olive oils. Even though you think you're buying an extra virgin olive oil, there are manufacturers that will mix extra virgin olive oil with a canola oil or a soybean oil, because it draws the cost down, but it also imparts an off flavor. So do check. It's worth the extra money because extra virgin olive oil, we aren't necessarily cooking with it. It's something that you're using for salad dressings where you want to taste the good quality of that oil. So that's what I'm using here. So we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of that. Francis, do we have any questions so far?
Not at this time.
Okay, good. So I must be doing a good job. Um, and then, so that's going to be, we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to do salt and pepper to taste. So that's something that you will determine. I do prefer to use a good sea salt. So as long as we're talking about ingredients, let's just clarify for you. There are salts, for example, that do have additives to them, and they're anti-caking additives. So for example, Morton kosher salt has an anti-caking agent added to it. I prefer not to have any of these extra chemicals or agents in my food. I just want one ingredient if at all possible. So look at the box and see, it should just say kosher salt or sea salt. You don't want that anti-caking. So this is just a sea salt for me, and I'm gonna this has a nice bite to it like a kosher salt. In other words, they're large enough salt granules. And that's another thing. You could use a finishing salt, like a flaked salt, if you wanted to. You don't have to use anything special. I mean, I typically just use a kosher salt, but I do make sure the ingredients. The other thing that's really important is that you're using fresh ground black pepper. That's going to be a really great added flavor to it. And then we've got our basil leaves. So I'm going to set some aside to decorate our plate with, but I'm going to take my basil leaves. Now these are my own basil leaves from the garden, which I've been harvesting all summer. I've also been drying them and making salts with them. And if we have time at the end, I can show you how I did that. They are fresh herb salts that I chop up all of the herbs, and then I put them into a jar in layers with kosher salt, and then put them in the refrigerator and let the kosher salt draw all the water out from the herbs. And I press that out after 2 weeks and then keep it in my refrigerator for up to a year. And then when I use those salts, it tastes like my herbs, like I cut them fresh in the garden. And that recipe is also on my website. So anyway, I just put all of my leaves together, rolled them up, and now I'm just going to slice this. Now, if you want, you can certainly add some onion to this. This recipe also called for a kind of pepper to be added to it. And I didn't have any of that. So I'm just going to substitute I've got some capers here. I love capers. So I'm going for salty rather than spicy. So you can do either one, whatever you'd like. If you don't like either of them, you don't have to add any of that. You could also add some of your, you could add some scallion or chive, whatever you'd like to this recipe, but this is really simple. And then we're just gonna take our fork and we're gonna whisk our olive oil and our vinegar together. All right. And it's that simple. And again, just before serving, that's when you want to dress this. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and toss this as gently as we can. We want to get everything very nicely coated, but it's kind of a lift and a drop. Perfect. And now it's time to plate that up. So I like to use a real simple plate because my salad is going to be the star here. And we can layer these in, making sure that we have this wonderful, colorful presentation. And I'm going to leave a space in the middle for my burrata. Look at these. I just love these green tomatoes. They make me so happy to see them. Now I'm going to say that this would be for my husband and I to share. Maybe we'll have a little cocktail later today to celebrate this beautiful weather. And there we go. We've got all of our melon in there. We've gotten every color of our tomato in there. And we're all set with that. And if you want, take from the bottom and find a little bit of that vinaigrette and just drizzle it around. Beautiful. Okay. And then we're going to take, yep.
We had a question. They were asking,
Sure.
could you add grapes or berries to this salad? Or do you think it works best just with tomatoes?
No, and I have to say, I think that people are so creative, right? So if we've already got our melon in there, so why not add some grapes? I will say, I have a friend who grows grapes and sells them to local wineries and farm stands. And if you can find um, someone who is growing grapes that are not your typical grocery store grapes, buy them. I don't care what it costs you, buy them, because you will not believe the subtlety and flavor of all these different table grapes that we have. I'm not a big fan of those cotton candy grapes because I think that they're just too sweet. But other ones are really subtle in their flavor differences. So I always recommend you try those. Okay, here is our burrata. This is a nice, large, beautiful ball of deliciousness. And Francis, you can hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut this. And then there you can see how soft and rich that is. This is a real treat. Now, we're going to drizzle that with some extra virgin olive oil because like a lot of fresh mozzarella's, they don't there's not a seasoning to it necessarily. And sometimes they go a little bit light for my taste on the salt. So I add a little bit more. There's our little bit of pepper. We're going to add a little bit of salt. Now I told you I was going to add some greens. So this is a salad burnet. This is a beautiful green that I grow. It's an herb, but it has a cucumbery flavor to it. And it's just so beautiful on a plate and in the garden. I love to encourage people when you see an herb like this, buy it and grow it in your garden because it just adds a lightness. And look at how beautiful that is. I can smell this. This is actually really wonderful. And if you're using it in a salad, you can also take it and pull it right off the stem. And then you can put the leaves around. And that's perfect. And now we're going to add to that, we saved our basil. And there we go. So there is our first dish, this beautiful burrata salad. It's got that sweet, savory combination. This is really perfect for an evening like tonight. And it gives you the chance to have a lot of different subtle flavors depending on the types of tomatoes that you've used, the type of melon that you've used. If you'd like to use honeydew melon, that could be the green in your salad. Cantaloupe is perfect. So do, go to your farm stand, see what they have. Mine had that wonderful cantaloupe cross, and then they have this sweet little melon. So I'm going to cut this tomorrow and have it with my lunch. So that's a really nice addition. So we'll just set that off to the side.
Liz, we had a couple
Yeah.
questions.
Sure.
Number one is, what if you have a dairy problem? What would you have instead of the burrata?
That's a good idea. What I would do is this is a nice opportunity to use a wonderful prosciutto or some kind of a special ham that you could kind of roll up in the middle and, do almost like a rose, um, look to it. So you can go with meat if you wanted to. You could certainly add, um, oh, if you're uh, making like chickpeas might be nice if you're looking to add some protein that way. Another thing that would be really interesting would be to do. I was going to say maybe a poached egg, but then I changed my mind. Well, why not? Why not give that a try? It would have the same soft center. So that might be nice. A soft cooked egg might be nice, and then serve it with bread so that you can get that all up. Or you can just use a beautiful tomato in the middle. Something really special would be nice. So those would be my suggestions.
Could you use a
Any
tofu also?
You certainly could, but do remember that the tofu itself will have very little flavor to it. So you might want to fry the tofu. I do have a recipe on my website for a fried tofu. That would be a good addition. So you could give that a try. Just make sure you season that up um, and and uh, and give that a try. Listen, nothing is off the table, right? And so you can try anything once and see how you like it.
And they also want to know, what was the name of the last herb you used that you said tasted, I think, like cucumbers or something?
Yes. So this is, and let me just bring a couple of these out so you can see. It's called salad burnet, and it has this very distinct leaf. Let me see if I can do a little bit of a close up on that. If we zoom in on that leaf, you see how, whoops, something disconnected here. I don't know why it did that. Let me see. Why is it angry with me? These are the glitches that we have to live with. Let's see. Why is that doing that? Okay. It didn't like my sudden zoom, I think. So let's see if we can zoom out. There we go. So you can see these the leaves and how they're cut. So they're really quite beautiful. And then they grow up on this lovely little vine like, and they are beautiful. They're rounded, almost like a rose, plant, I guess is how they would describe it. So now let me see what my rotation is here. There we go. Okay. So we're back. We're back. So anyway, so it's called salad burnet, and it's Burnet. Hard to find. I have found a couple of places around me in New Hampshire where it is available. So if you see it, buy it. That is my advice to you. And it's an annual, so you'll get it in the spring.
And
Okay.
we had one
And
other question.
mhm, yeah.
The calabrini hot peppers, they did not see them go into the salad.
Because I couldn't find them, so I thought, why don't I do um, a substitute? So I used the capers instead. The hot peppers would be wonderful, or you could get those sweet hot peppers, which would be lovely. They come in a jar, so that would be a nice addition. So any one of those would be nice. And of course, look at the color. The sweet hot peppers tend to be red, so they're beautiful. They have a really bright color to them. So you can add those in. Okay. Um, all right. Are we all set, Francis? I'll go on to the next recipe.
We're ready to go to the next recipe.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is our corn fritters, and these are wonderful and wonderfully easy. The only thing that you, will be, have to do that has any kind of complication at all, and it really doesn't, is to get the corn off of your cob. So this is a real easy task. What I do is I just lay it down on its side, and I take a good sharp knife and I cut against the cob and just cut the corn right off, right? So just make sure you have a good sharp knife. You don't want to cut into the cob itself, but just get that corn right off. Now, I do have one of these little, let me see if I have it here, one of these gadgets for cutting the corn off. It's this little thing that I picked up at some kitchen store, and you're going to pull it against the corn cob and then it takes it off. But I find that I don't get as much corn off of it. So I feel like when I do the knife, I get more. So that's typically what I do. But again, if you use this little gadget, you just press it against the corn and there you go. Okay. And now we're gonna flip that over on that side and cut right through. Now my chickens love these cobs, so they will definitely enjoy that. I saved that for them. I think that little gadget caught me and gave me a little bit of a cut. I may have to put a Band-Aid on it. All right. Now this is also the way that you're going to, if you're going to freeze your corn, this is also the way you're going to do that. Of course, my handy dandy on camera Band-Aids. Ah, there they are. I'm going to add a quick one. This is what happens live, folks. Sometimes you're not paying attention and you need to take care of a quick injury. One time I had cut myself and I didn't have my Band-Aids. And so I had to go up to my upstairs bathroom to get a Band-Aid. So I took everybody up there with me on my microphone. So it was quite a scene. But anyway, we're all set. So I found that for the full recipe, it's about 4 pieces of corn. I used a yellow corn, a white corn, and 2 white and yellow corn. So, a nice mix. It doesn't matter. You could actually use frozen corn if you'd like. So don't hesitate with that. So we're going to use, let me just bring up our recipe here and make sure that I have the right quantities for you. There we go. And we're going to use about 3 cups. So let's just make sure that we're not overdoing it. I'm going to break those up. Now, my daughter has fallen in love with raw corn. So she puts her raw corn in a salad, and I bet you in this tomato salad that we have here, the raw corn would be absolutely delicious. So yeah, these were bigger than I did the other day. So maybe just the 3 would be fine. And this I will save for later. Okay. Francis, do we have any questions about that?
I was just getting ready to ask you, is the corn already cooked before you cut it off?
No, it's raw. So like I said, you can use frozen corn if you want. You don't have to pre-cook it. It's going to cook in your fritter when you cook that.
And also, when you freeze your corn, do you blanch them first? How do you freeze your corn?
I don't. I just freeze it fresh. Again, on a tray, you want to put it on a tray so that all the pieces are on there, individual. You freeze that, then take it out of the freezer and then scoop them into a plastic bag or container, however you want to do it. And then you've got that wonderful fresh corn. It's fresh frozen. So it still has a lot of the good flavor, a lot of the good sweetness to it. All right, I'm just going to get my eggs ready. Were there any other questions?
We are good for now.
Good, good. All right, so we've got 2 eggs, and we're going to add, I'm going to just whisk those up real quick, and then we're going to add our milk, about 2/3 of a cup of milk. So now we're making, essentially, it's like a little pancake batter mix. So we've got our milk. I'm going to add that. And now we're going to add our seasoning to this. So we have kosher salt and pepper. Okay. I'm going to add that. Got a little bit of garlic powder that we're going to add, which is adds a little bit of flavor. Remember, the corn is going to be very sweet. So we want to add a little bit of heat, a little bit of contrast. We're going to add a little bit of cayenne pepper. Okay, if you're not a cayenne fan, that's all right. If you want to add an herb to this, you certainly could add, thyme or parsley. If you wanted to add basil, you can. And then you've got that mixed together. Whoop. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that to my corn. Get all of that in there. In the same bowl, I'm going to mix my flour with some baking powder, give it a little height. Mix that together. And then I'm going to chop up some fresh scallion from my garden. For those of you who were with me in the spring, I may have told you that what I do is when I get scallions from the grocery store, you know how they have the roots attached? Well, I enjoy the green part of the scallion, and then I put the root end right into the garden, and all summer long, I have scallions, and from then on, they're free. So that has been a wonderful little freebie that I got from a grocery store or a farm stand scallion. And they continue to produce, and they'll produce all the way into the first frost. So that's nice. So we're going to add the scallion, but you can add chive if you like. Again, this would be really nice with basil, thyme. If you have tarragon, that would be nice. Any kind of fresh herb, just plain parsley would be perfect. And then we're going to go ahead and add in our flour and our baking powder. Super easy. And that's it. This is a wonderful batter. Okay, again, the corn is raw. You can use frozen corn. You just want to thaw that out. And then the last thing we're going to add is the cheddar cheese. Now, for somebody who doesn't want to add cheddar cheese, you could add a mozzarella if you wanted, Swiss cheese, Gruyere, all of those would be a lovely addition. Remember, it's going to be kind of a binder, so having a softer cheese that you've grated, some kind of a cheese that you can grate is going to be, work really well for this recipe. This recipe too would be perfect for Thanksgiving. Any kind of holiday, people would love to have these on their plate. All right, so we've got that. And we're going to go ahead and move over to the stove. Francis, before I do that, are there any questions at this point from anyone?
None at this point.
Okay, great. Now, here we are at the stove, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to heat up my pan. Now, you can use a cast iron pan, or you can do like what I'm doing here is I'm using, stainless steel. And you just want to have a nice heavy bottomed pan because we're going to be cooking oil in it, and we don't want to, we want to have a nice even heat. Okay, and so just enough to coat the bottom. You certainly could use coconut oil if you prefer, but I'm using just a regular olive oil. Again, when talking about oils and things like that, I'm not going to be using canola oil. That is completely out of our pantry. I don't use a soybean oil or anything like that. because those are very inflammatory. And I have to say, now that I've kind of cleansed my palate of these canola oils, these seed oils, when I eat something that has them, I can definitely taste the difference. So it's a good idea to, find the ingredients, the things that you have, the packaged goods in your house that have those seed oils in them, and just try to wean off of them and buy something else that has fewer ingredients in it. They're using a real olive oil or a real coconut oil. Even these days, I'm hearing that avocado oils are a little bit suspect as to whether they're actually really avocado. So things like that make me a little bit nervous. All right, and I'm just waiting for this to heat up. Francis, while I'm doing that, did you have any questions or
Yes.
comments that you wanted to
Somebody
share?
said, what do you use for high heat oil since you can't use olive oil? Sesame oil, sunflower
Well,
oil?
that's a good question, but I think we've been led astray on olive oil. I think you can use it for high heat like I'm doing here. I think that it's much more stable than we knew, than I knew. But if you still have concerns about that, a coconut oil is a really good alternative. If you get a virgin coconut oil that might have a little bit of a coconut flavor, but I haven't found it to overpower anything. And of course, it's solid, right? So, you're going to have to, I have some here that I have. It's a virgin coconut oil cold press, so you can use that. Um, this does tell you it does have a coconut flavor to it, taste to it, so you want to be careful. Another one that you could use is tallow. That's becoming more and more available. It's what our grandmothers used to cook in before they brought in all of these seed oils, which, by the way, there are a lot of the seed oils were initially a byproduct, a waste product of another function. And so they used them and convinced, sold them as edible, but they didn't know the long-term effects of using these oils on a regular basis, and certainly not in the quantities that are being used today by manufacturers, because to use these oils like a canola oil, it lowers the price of the manufacturing of the product. So it increases the profitability of it. So I'm these days getting a little bit more suspect of those kinds of things. So I always recommend that people do their own research. You can go on my website. I have information about seed oils that you can check and see what, make up your own mind. That's what's most important, is that you're making up your own mind. Okay. Francis, did we have any other questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. So what I'm looking for here is to let these brown up on both sides. It should take, 2 minutes or so. You want to have a moderate flame here, because we don't want to burn them, but we do want to give them a chance to get a nice brown on each side. So there we go. Isn't that lovely? Now, you don't need to put too much oil in there. We aren't deep frying them. We're just cooking them in this oil, and kept over a moderate flame. You're not going to burn your oil. That's the other thing. So these aren't deep fried. They are just essentially sauteed, right? But we're doing it in oil with a moderate flame. Okay. And those are great. Now, you could also make those larger if you wanted to, and then serve, a fillet of salmon on top would be nice. So if you could make those large enough and then put the salmon on top, you could also do swordfish on that, tuna, anything like that. You could make those and serve shrimp on top. Maybe in a cream sauce would be a wonderful thing. So these are incredibly versatile. And you can even use them instead of making sandwich bread. If you wanted to, you could serve them instead of bread for like a cheese sandwich or something like that. So make them a head, make them whatever size you want. And I love having, notice that I am using this little cookie scoop. So this is a great way to keep your sizes consistent. And that way they'll all be the same. All right.
Liz, you were talking about
Yep.
oils, and somebody asked a question that said, can you use olive oil in baking instead of canola oil without altering the taste of a baked good like a cake?
Good question. I love these questions. I would say to you, go butter. Okay. Butter is a natural fat. It is perfect for baking. We don't need to, again, we don't need to use canola oil in our baking. I just switch everything over to butter. It actually adds a better flavor to the baked good. And I think it's just so versatile. So you're going to melt your butter in the same quantity, use that in the same quantity as you would a canola oil. I mean, I know what you're talking about. I have a recipe from my mother-in-law. It's a chocolate cake recipe that called for canola oil. And my husband said to me, oh my gosh, that was my birthday cake from the time I was a little kid. So he was born in 1961, around the time when all of these oils were being, shared as heart healthy. So it's no surprise to me that that recipe was probably from that time and included canola oil in it. And then now we've been using it because it's a neutral oil, right? Meaning it has a very neutral flavor to it. Well, actually it has zero flavor to it, which of course in certain recipes, that's what you're looking for. But I think we all can find a better, healthier product to do what the canola oil has been doing in our recipes. All right. Any other questions?
Someone asked, said they have a dairy allergy and they can't use butter. Will plant butter work in baked goods?
I am not familiar with using plant butter, so I can't honestly comment on that, but there has to be, I would say that what we're looking for then is you're looking for that substitute instead of butter. So what could you use? I think that there are these plant oils that 2 degrees are less um, uh, the processing of them is fewer steps. Like a canola oil takes like 12 or 14 steps to extract the oil. And then when they extract the oil, the odor is so horrendous that then they put it through some kind of a bleaching process. There must be better oils that are neutral. So maybe a sunflower oil would be a better substitute for you. So that's why I say do your research about seed oils and try to go to multiple sources so that you get the true and honest story about what are going to be healthy for you and what are not going to cause inflammation, which is what we're very worried about. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of a topping here that is not in our recipe, but it's just so simple. I thought of it last minute. And that is, let's do, or maybe it is I think it is on the recipe actually. It's just an option for you, a little bit of sour cream. And the recipe said a little bit of honey. But what I have is I have a pepper honey that I made, and it's just honey mixed with crushed red pepper. So it adds a little bit of bite to it. And I thought, oh, that would be really nice. So I'm going to add, like a tablespoon. I've got probably about 1/3 of a cup to 1/2 of a cup of sour cream. Let me just turn over our fritters here while I'm finishing that up, because I wanted to even talk to you about the sour cream. That again, because I'm reading labels, I discovered something about the sour cream that surprised me a little. So dairy products have a lot of additives to them. This brand, Daisy Sour Cream, has only in it, when I look at the ingredients, cultured cream. That's it. But the other ones that I was looking at, they had preservatives in them. And I thought, why would I do that if I'm, all different parts of our diet, I'm being very careful about what I put in there. Why would I want to add that to my dairy? So that's another area there where we have additives to it for preservation to extend the shelf life, right? I'm adding just a little bit of lime to this. So I want you, to be cautious about all the different ingredients that you're using, because the processed foods, they're in everything we eat. So when you have control, and you certainly do have control, you want to utilize it. Okay, so there's my sour cream, a little bit of honey. Mine is a peppered honey, so it's got a little bit of crushed red pepper, a little bit of lime juice. Always add a little bit of salt, because that will lift the flavor a bit. And so that's going to be my topping. Now, in the instructions, it did say for you to put these on paper towels. And what I found was that, first of all, I wasn't using too much oil, so that's okay. But by leaving them to drain on an open surface like this, they kept their crispiness, which is what I was looking for. I wanted these to be nice and crispy. Now, this would be a wonderful appetizer like this that you could serve with your little bit of, let me just add to one of these, a little bit of a sour cream sauce to it. And then people could dip in that, or they could put it on their plate. But this is a wonderful option for you. I'm going to clean that up so that we have a nice, pretty spot at the end. And there we have our two dishes, our wonderful little corn, our corn fritters there, not too deeply fried, right? I'm gonna put a little bit of parsley, nice, easy decoration on the side. And now I'm really hungry. I have been fasting all day. And so this is going to be the perfect addition, the perfect way to break my fast. So here we have our two recipes. I say use this all year round. Remember, you can get and use frozen corn in this, and it's perfect. This would be wonderful for the holidays, wonderful for appetizers for when your friends come. This salad is so special with the burrata. If you don't have burrata, you can use fresh mozzarella. These are tiny little mozzarella balls. So you can use that. You could even do a really good feta with this, an excellent ricotta salata. Be, careful with your choice that it's really special, because the whole salad is so special. So Frances, did we have any last questions before we go today?
We do, and you've piqued everybody's interest with the salt herbs, and they're wondering if you have time to do that.
Okay.
And
All right,
everybody
I'll tell
loved how fresh everything looks and how good it
Oh,
looks.
good. Well, Frances, I'm willing to talk about it more. We're at the end of time. Can I go on? Can I continue on? Is that good with you?
You certainly can. I'm
Okay.
here as long as you are.
Okay, good. So everybody, for just 1 second, I am looking for my recipe. Let me see if I have it. Here we do. Okay. So Frances, I'm going to share my screen with everybody. So let's do that. And okay. Oh, these little pop-ups. There we go. It went away. Okay, so here we go. The herb salad. Now I'm just reaching into my refrigerator because I made these last week. And they're about a week too soon for finishing, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do anyway. Okay, so here's the recipe. So you can see here in this first picture that what I did, I layered it with salt, right? So the whole idea is that you are getting fresh herbs. Now you can get them from your own garden, a farm stand, the grocery store, whatever works for you. And you can, you're going to uh, choose herbs that work well together. Traditionally, this dish, this salt is made, it's a French Canadian recipe that I had discovered. And it's made with shaved carrots, um, uh, chopped celery, celery leaf, and then herbs mixed in. You can also use chive. I used leeks in one of these because I had an extra leek. And the whole point is that you're layering them with the salt, and the salt over 2 weeks' time will draw out the water, and then you're going to press it at the end. So let me just show you. Oh, and here is, you know what, Francis, I'm going to put this into the chat, my link, so that people can grab it still while, let me stop the share while we're here together.
Thank you. I was just looking for that.
Okay, there you go. So everybody grab that. And then the combination that I have listed there is dill, parsley, celery leaves, chives. You can add mint, basil, cilantro if you want. And then using a good kosher or sea salt, or a mineral, some kind of a red sea salt or something like that. Now, let's see if this is, if I think geez, one time I tell everybody, oh, label everything, date it so you know. And of course I didn't do that. So I layered it in this nice little jar. Okay, this little jar here. And let's see, if I press down, no, it still hasn't given up all of its water yet. But what you want to do, oh, there we go. There's some. Okay, so that's the water from the herbs that's coming out. And so I'm going to let this sit for another week just to be sure I'm on the right timeline. You're going to press all of that extra water out after the 2 weeks are done. And then you can fluff this up and keep it in the refrigerator. And I'm telling you, 6 months from now, it's going to taste as fresh as it was the day you prepared it. And I like to make them, like I made this and put it in this tiny little jar. So I'm going to press it out, and then I'm going to give it to my daughter, and then she'll have it. I'm going to give one to my son, so he'll have it. And I use these in, if I'm going to be, say I were to serve my burrata, to have that drizzled on top would be, sprinkled on top would be lovely. To mix it in with butter to serve on top of a steak, or just to add to, I've cooked my vegetables, and instead of salt, I'm going to use this herb salt, and it will just be fresh and bright and really seasonal in the off season. So it's a really easy thing to do that will impress any guest that you're serving it with. It would be great in cream sauces, anything like that. Okay. Any questions about that, Francis?
They said, do you use the herb water in anything? What do you do with the herb water?
Nothing, but yeah, you're smarter than me. Sure, I could use that and just drizzle it on. Oh, why don't I do that? I'm just going to drizzle it on there, and there you go. Why throw anything away, right? But I hadn't even thought about that. See, so you guys know more than I. Any other questions?
That's good. So I'm ready to do my
Okay.
ending. Are you?
All right,
right.
I
So
am. And yep.
Thank you, Liz, for today's lesson and cook-along demonstration. As everybody was saying, what a superb class and what great presentation that was. So today's cook-along demonstration is one of the many virtual event offerings provided by AARP New Hampshire. Visit us at aarp.org/nh to learn about our other virtual events. which include yoga, painting classes, and educational webinars. So be sure to join us at 2 p.m. on October 17th, when Liz will demonstrate 2 classic French bistro recipes. Be sure to register for this class at aarp.org/nh. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you, Liz, for once again a great presentation, and everybody loved it.
Great. Thank you, Frances. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month. Have a
All
wonderful
right.
fall. Take care.
Yep. You too.